Scott doesn't have audio, so Marcy, if you could check on him just to make sure that he's all set up and ready to go. But otherwise, it looks like everyone's good. Everyone's set their status to purple for the most part, so we'll just go ahead and get started. So welcome. It looks like we have a great attendance today. Thank you very much for joining me. We have a really exciting topic. Today we'll be talking about creating Webpart mashups with InfoPath and SharePoint. So just to start off real quick, we do, this webinar does require audio. So I think everyone looks like they're good except for Scott. So I'm not sure if Scott has his audio set up, but otherwise, sorry, the presentation, ignore the cascading drop-downs, but we will be having a quick kind of short talk about the presentation. We'll be talking about mashups, sort of the scenarios as well, so surrounding mashups and InfoPath and SharePoint, and we'll try to reserve most of the time for the webinar and the demo that I have. We have a couple of demos that we want to show you. And then at the very end, we'll have a Q&A period. I'll stick around for a few minutes at the very end to answer any of your questions, and feel free to send me email as well if you have any questions after the webinar. So with that, I just wanted to kind of quickly talk about mashup. So what is a mashup really? So a mashup actually combines data from multiple sources, and you take that data and you try to combine them in a from the multiple sources into a single interface. So today I'll be showing you combining from two different sources, but you can certainly grab data from more than two sources as well. But in SharePoint, what that means is mashups are really created by what we call webparts. So we create these site pages, or a dashboard, or whatever you want to call it, and you take these webparts, and basically each of these webparts will grab in their own type of information, but put them together, and they'll create one single interface where you can go and consolidate your data. There are a bunch of out-of-the-box webparts that SharePoint offers. We'll talk about a couple of them today, including the InfoPath form webpart, the list webpart as well. But there's a bunch more, like the Excel webpart, there's the chart webpart, and so forth. As I did mention, webparts are placed on a site page. Sometimes we call this a dashboard as well. And they'll actually interact with each other, these webparts, through what we call part-to-part connections. So all of these we'll show you the concepts today and how these work, and we'll show you sort of some of the basic stuff as well as a quick demo of something a little bit more complicated to kind of pique your interest. So in terms of the scenarios, why would you use mashups? Why would you use these web parts and dashboards and site pages and so forth? Well, I have a couple of scenarios here for you that might be of interest. The first one I have is a mortgage calculator. So basically, the idea here with the mortgage calculator, if you're familiar with InfoPath, you can InfoPath is great for building in logic, data input, conditional formatting, laying out your form very nicely with tables and so forth. So you can imagine creating a calculator using an InfoPath form, and you would basically put that form into an InfoPath web part. Now you can take that data now and send that data to Excel in the Excel web part, and then use Excel to actually calculate mortgage repayments. So Excel would then do the bulk of the calculation. It could potentially show you a nice spreadsheet. It can also display a chart as well if you want to use the chart web part to visualize the data that you inputted in your InfoPath form. The second scenario I have is managing request tickets. So you can have a list web part, for example, display all the tickets that are currently assigned to you. And rather than having to click on each of the tickets and open up each of them in, either in the client or just inline in the browser, if you want to be able to see all your tickets at once and also the form, you can actually use part-to-part connection, or you can use web parts, and then have a part-to-part connection connecting the list web part, and it'll actually display the ticket details in the InfoPath web part. And I'll actually show you a quick demo of something similar to this scenario in a few minutes. The customer order management scenario is fairly similar as well. You can basically select a customer, and the idea here is that it'll actually select all of the orders, or it'll actually display all of the orders using an InfoPath web part for that particular customer. So you can kind of imagine this as like sort of a filter. You can pick a customer, and then it'll just show all the orders. You can even take this one step further, and for example, a particular order has details. You can even insert an additional web part, and when you click on that particular order, it'll show the details in a different web part. So you can see this could potentially cascade down, and you can have multiple web parts for this particular scenario. And finally, there's a search and filter scenario as well. I mentioned about filtering, but you can also do a search. You can do like a full text search and basically search and parse through the title, the description, or whatever fields that you have in the form. And I'll actually show another quick demo of this using our search web part that we have. So those are just a few of the scenarios. There's definitely plenty more that you can use, web parts and mashups for. But these are kind of, a couple of the basic ones, and there are definitely more out there to make use of this very useful tool, the SharePoint and InfoPath. So I'm going to dive right into the demo here, and just to kind of quickly summarize what exactly we're going to do with the demo now. So I'll be creating a simple dashboard page. This will be a site page on my SharePoint site. And we're going to create a list web part here to an InfoPath form web part. We're also going to create, we're also going to demo an InfoPath form web part to an InfoPath form web part, as well as another quick demo of our search web part with some DBXL integration here. And I'm going to call out as well a couple of the features in InfoPath that are kind of critical to making these this demo work, our part-to-part connections and also promoted fields. All right, so we're going to dive right into the demo.
Anson, if you can hear me, I think we lost audio. Bear with us, folks, as we have a little bit of audio trouble. Sorry about the interruption. Looks like Anson's trying to get his audio back, so bear with us, please.
Hey, Marcy, can you hear me okay now?
Yes, now I can hear you. Great.
Okay. Let me just reshare my screen. Okay, great. Sorry about that. So, continuing on. So, yeah, so this is my list. I just have a title of my course, a description, start date, and class size. So the first demo that I have here is a list web part to an InfoPath form web part. So on the left-hand side, I have my list. This is the same list that you just saw in the previous tab. And the idea here is I can kind of see all of the courses that we offer. And if I want to go and dig down into each of the courses and find out what the details are, I don't necessarily have to go and open up each of these list items. I can click on this button on the left here, and if you look on the right, this is an InfoPath form. This will actually go and change the details on the right-hand side whenever I click on that select button. So the left part here is actually the list web part, and the right part here is an InfoPath form web part. And just to show you how that looks like, so all I really did here was I took the list and I customized the list in InfoPath, and this is the list. This is the InfoPath form that I'm displaying on the right-hand side. So this is basically what my form looks like in InfoPath. It's fairly simple. I actually have two views. So I actually have an edit view and a display view. So this is what it actually kind of looks like when I first auto-gen the form in InfoPath. But what I did was actually a useful trick here. If you actually want the display view to look a little bit different, when you're opening it up in InfoPath, you want to actually use a completely different view. A trick here then is now if you go to the properties, for the print settings, if you set the print view for the default view to a different view, it's going to use that view as the display view when you're actually opening it up in SharePoint. So that's basically what I did there. And I just set it up. It's very simple. And then let's go back to my dashboard here. And that's what appears here. And I'll show you how to quickly set that up in a couple minutes. So the second one that I have here is also a similar kind of concept, except this time it's using an InfoPath form web part to another InfoPath form web part. So this one's also fairly simple. I have a drop-down list here, and the drop-down just has a secondary data connection to the list with all my courses in it. So I make that all the courses appear in my drop-down here. And then if I were to select a particular course, then it's going to go and send data to this other web part. And again, it's using the same details form that I just showed you, and it'll go and populate the course description. Now, this is a fairly simple InfoPath form web part. It's just a drop-down. But you can imagine having, something a little bit more complicated. If I wanted to filter based on class size, if I wanted to filter based on, I don't know, like keywords and description, or maybe I want to, do another filter on what term it's offered in, or something like that. I can build in some more functionality in here, some data validation logic and so forth that the list web part can't offer. So those are kind of the two basic scenarios. One's using a list web part, one's using an InfoPath form web part. So I'll kind of walk you through real quick how to build the very first one. It's fairly simple. So here I just have a blank page. I'm going to go and create a new site page so I can go and create my dashboard. Okay, new Webpart page. And then you can just pick the doc library that you want to attach that new site page to. So this is what my blank Webpart page is going to look like. So here you can see I picked the layout. It's a header with and footer with 3 columns. So I can insert my web parts now. So I'm just going to insert here, and this is the one column here. So the first web part that I'm going to include is my list web part. So that's my courses. And here you can see this is what my courses look like. I have a different view that I can use so that I don't see all the description at once to save some real estate. So I can go and edit my web parts. Further down, I think it's under, right here, select a view. So I have a simple view here. Okay. Great, so we have that now. And so now in my right column, I'm going to go and add my InfoPath form web part. So that one's under the forms. And we'll see here the InfoPath form web part. Add that. I can go and I can select the form now. So the form that I use in my web part has to be associated with either a list or a library. So I have that under courses. Apply. Great, so it shows this. It's showing me the wrong view, it's showing me the default view, so I want to change that as well. I can do that here as well on the right-hand side. Right now it's showing me the edit item view, but I want to actually show the display view instead. that's it. That's pretty much how to set up the Webpart page. The last little bit that you need to do is actually set up the part-to-part connection. And that's pretty simple. So you just want to go and here, you click on this little contextual menu. There's going to be a connections, and you want to go and get form from courses. And there you go, that's it. So if it's stop editing, I can now go and start clicking all of these buttons over here on the left hand side, and then that'll go and update the InfoPath form Webpart. And all that really does is it basically sends the InfoPath form Webpart some data, probably the ID or something, and the InfoPath form Webpart is going to do a query. It's going to go and load the information based on the data that was sent to by the other list Webpart. So that's how to set up that. I'm starting to run out of time, so I'm not going to go in and walk through the second part, the InfoPath form Webpart, the InfoPath form Webpart. But I do want to call out a couple of things. What's very important about this is for the InfoPath form Webpart, the search one. I'll show that really quick in the InfoPath. So this is what my form looks like in InfoPath. The important thing about that is you need to go and make sure you have to promote the proper columns that you want to send over. So, for example, if I go into File, Form Options, go into Property Promotion. What I did here is when I published my form to a doc library, I actually have here the Webpart Connection parameters is the bottom one, the course actually submitted. So I need to make sure that the course is here, because otherwise, if I don't actually include this as a promoted property, it's not going to appear as one of the options for data to send to the other InfoPath form Webpart. And basically all I do here then now is I have a rule on this dropdown, so whenever the data changes, it's going to go and send the data to the Webpart. So it's going to send basically all the data that I had selected in that property promotion section to the other Webpart. And then the last thing here would be to actually set up the Webpart connection. And that's also pretty simple. You just go and send data to instead of get form from, and you want to send it to the other Webpart. And then this should pop up a dialog here. And the provider field name, now this is the field name that's in my original, my search Webpart, and I call it course here. And my consumer field name, this is where we want to write that data to. So it could be a temporary field, or it could be a different field within that second form. So for me, in my case, I call it title. And all I did there was basically say, if title has changed, show you the rule real quick here. So if the title has changed, then I want to go and set the query field. I'm setting the query field of the title, see the value of title that I just sent, and then I'm just querying that data connection. So it's a little bit more of a manual process. It's not as simple as setting up the lists to InfoPath Webpart connection. But it's still very powerful. You get a lot of additional functionality when you are using an InfoPath form Webpart to an InfoPath form Webpart, because then you're dealing with InfoPath in both Webpart cases, and you can get all the customization built in the search as well as the detail section. So the last thing I wanted to show was our search Webpart. So our search Webpart is really useful. It uses DBXL. And the idea here is that it's a little bit more robust and it's a little bit more out of the box. It uses DBXL in order to it uses DBXL doc types in order to perform the search on. So and it leverages SQL, so you can use full text search, meaning you can actually go and type in a particular term or a search criteria, and it'll actually go search through the entire record for that particular course. So if I go here and I start typing, say, algorithm. I go and search. And it gives me the results for that particular query. So it'll give me all the courses that have algorithm in the course description or even in the title. And it shows this in this nice little table here up top. So it's a little bit easier to kind of visually parse through all of the data. I know my list is not very long, but you can imagine there's like 1,000 items here. And then that would be pretty useful to kind of narrowing it down in order to look at the courses that you actually really care about. All right, so back to my slides. So I'll send out this deck at the very end of the presentation. I have a resource slide that's going to pop up real soon. So these are a few links that I've compiled that will be really useful. I know, what I covered today was very, very simple. This is kind of getting you bootstrapped into sort of an intro to web parts. There's a lot more that you can do with web parts. The chart web part is really, really neat. Very, very useful tool. Excel web part, super, super useful as well. I didn't get into any of that today. Just kind of went over the basics. But if you are curious and you do want to kind of play around with it and start creating your own web part mashups, I do have some links that I recommend here. There are a bunch of blog articles on MSDN that are really, really useful. I talked about the mortgage calculator scenario, and there's actually a really good lab on MSDN that will walk you through the mortgage calculator scenario if you want to try that out on your own. And also, more information. If you want more information on the Qdabra search web part, we do offer that online at our InfoPath Dev site. So feel free to go and check that out. There's some information there, as well as the web part, some instructions on how to set it up. So I will send out this deck after the webinar, and that way you will have all these links. And that pretty much wraps it up for me here. So if you have any questions, feel free to go and enter your question in the Q&A tab. I will stick around for a few minutes to answer any of your questions that you might have. But otherwise, hope you all have a great day, and thanks for coming.
Anson, can you share the training slide? And also, looks like I don't have an email address for Shane, Susan, or I'm not sure which Scott is with us today. So if you want to get the information from today's webinar, please just send me an email, coursemanager@qdabra.com, if you're one of those three people and you want the information. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and I just wanted to share this slide real quick. There is some training that's upcoming. We have our master training class. Next one's going to be offered in May. And we have a couple of new quick start classes. I think the next one's scheduled for April. So if you're interested, there's more info up on the slide here, and feel free to go and visit those links if you want to find more info, or feel free to email us. We can answer any questions that you might have as well.